And if it wasn't for de Gaulle, who wouldn't have any part of it, they were a dishonorable country in what they did. They didn't just give up, they joined. And so I think you got to be careful about how these words are used. Appeasement means a certain thing. It means joining over to the enemy, basically.
Chris, do you ever think you're too smart for TV? I mean,
No,
that's serious.
it's fun. It's people like the historic perspective. In
Well,
fact,
wait,
they
but-
really like it.
But do you find much of the time you're talking to people who...
Well, I sometimes think my memory is too damn good. I'm sitting there thinking now about the Kennedy speech at Faneuil Hall in 1960,
Right.
and it's in my head, pounding in my head, this image of him standing with all the portraits, and I realize it's 48 years ago, and to me it's yesterday. And I'm surrounded by people that don't know those things.
Right.
As
That's
Arnold
what I
Schwarzenegger
mean.
would say, and those things.
But you're...
One of those great Daryl Hammond is always just, and those things.
But Chris, you have colleagues who don't have.
Well, I
those
came from a
references.
different place, yeah.
So what's that like?
Hey, look, we all know what we know. They know hockey.
But does it get
They,
frustrating?
they know things that I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know
they
who's
know
on the
hockey.
Flyers. I don't know that
But
stuff.
does it get frustrating?
No, because
for
it's
you?
good to know what somebody else doesn't know.
Well, who?
Look, I think I've succeeded at what I do, which is I've made a career out of following my interests, and my interests are in public affairs and government, and I care about the country, and I care about America, and I get emotional about it, and I get paid to be emotional about America. I get thrills up my leg, and I admit them, and it's all of a sudden everybody thinks that's sort of fun, and I go, fine, make fun of me, but it's the truth. I get emotional about this country, and I think that's the reason Barack Obama is doing well, because a lot of other people do too. And they hear something in his voice that gets to their sense of American, of being American. And it's not about being white or being from North America, or from Northern Europe or
Yeah.
anything. It's about the belief in
Chris,
this country. Let me
that a-
finish that point.
Okay,
Because a lot of
finish
people
that
don't
point.
get that. They think this election is about politics. No, it's about nationhood. This is an identification of America with a totality we've never accepted. That this country is a mixture of people. And it is about our unity. And if you want to hear, I was up in North Philly, which is a tough neighborhood, a dangerous neighborhood, at a safe time of the week, 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning. It's a good time to visit North Philly, actually, if you're going to be an outsider. And everybody's together, mixed together racially. I'd say 6 out of 7 people African American, but mixed in, not in groups, mixed together. Everybody's happy. And for me, growing up in Philly, that was a big deal to see that kind of a group. Happy, as you can believe, at the prospect of Barack Obama. And what was his biggest applause line? Not that I'm going to divide up the pie again and give you people a break, or not I'm going to get even with the rich white people. It was, I want a country that unites us. I want a president that unites us and that doesn't divide us. And that's what thrilled those people, just to get a break. They just want, all they want after all these years of slavery and Jim Crow and hell, all they want after all this is a decent break. You know, nobody wants breakfast in bed. And it's, to me, it was stunning that these people on the other side keep talking about socialism, because they don't like the progressive income tax. Give me a break. We've had that since Woodrow Wilson. It's not exactly breaking news.
Does this emotion that you feel, though, does it get served by television?
It gets mocked by it sometimes, like you do. You mock me.
I don't mock you. I'm not mocking
You just
you.
mocked me a
I'm trying
minute
to get
ago. You said
somewhere
I
with
talk
you
too
here.
much.
I know. I actually don't think you talk too much. I think you're Chris. I'm used to you. I know. I've had to do this a few times myself, and I always compare it to being in a car and I'm doing the driving and you keep trying to grab the wheel from me, and then eventually I'm going to have to stop and say, look, I can drive. But anyway, I'm going somewhere with this. You've gone through a lot of changes in the last year, right?
Really?
Personally? Yeah, I think you have. I think you've changed.
Nobody changes.
No, I think you're.
Have you ever met anybody who changes?
You have matured in a way that you haven't in a while. There's some new gravitas to you. I don't know where it came from. Maybe you faced mortality in some way. Maybe it was
I've had
Keith
a few.
Olbermann.
I've had pneumonia. I've had malaria. I've had
Right.
diabetes.
Right.
I have diabetes. I have all these things.
Well, don't they have
I
an effect?
accumulate them.
Yeah.
I don't cure them. I build on them.
They don't make you think about it?
A little bit, yeah.
And you're an empty nester.
That's a shock.
Well,
When you come home at night, I feel like I was thinking the other night how much I never thought I'd miss, and everybody here has been through this, how much I miss the life presence of my 3 kids working on homework and arguing with my wife about homework. How much I miss that glow in my life. When I'm in the house, I knew there's a glow upstairs. There's a kid upstairs studying.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
There's another kid somewhere in some other room. There's somebody working at the word processor with Kathy, fighting over the final draft of something. And I miss all that glow. It's like Brigadoon to me. It's just gone. And I come home at the house, and I get home before Kathy now, and I feel like Ebenezer Scrooge coming home. The house is dark. It's a little cold. I go in, I go turn the lights on, and I'm all alone. And I go, I got to get all the lights on, as many as I can get on to make us feel like we're there. And Kathy always says, why are all the lights on? Because I like all the lights on. It makes me feel I'm home. That's different. It is an empty nest. It's not. You always miss.
But has it
You miss a lot of
you?
this. You miss the life of the kids. You just miss them all around you.
But do you think about the course of your life, don't you, going forward?
Yeah, I do. I think I've had a great time.
And
I remember, like all of us, we remember the big trips. We remember the special stuff.
And you yourself have said that when you were a little boy, when other little boys wanted to be firemen, you wanted to be a senator.
Can we move on?
Well, no, I just want to ask you one question.
This is a topic that I cannot discuss
I know you,
and
so
will
I'm
not
not going to
discuss.
make you discuss it. I'm going to dance around it. So, but let me just ask you this. When you see somebody like Al Franken, maybe about
I think he's going to pull it off. I think
well,
the luck is with
how
him.
does that make Chris, who
Luck? No, I'll just tell you,
wanted to-
it's not related to me at all. This is not referential to me. I think Al Franken went out there 3 years ago to Minnesota with all his baggage, with his history of the satire he's written. And he's done some great things, like he's been on any number of USO tours and done great stuff with the troops. I was supposed to go on one with him when I got sick once. He has been very patriotic, even though he's going to disagree with the war. And Al went out there and made a decision and stuck it out and took a lot of heat and was way back in the polls. And they went after him on this stupid tax thing, which I think is BS. Because when you go out and give speeches, you pay your taxes through your local government, and you pay them all, local and federal, because you're working through an agency, and you pay everything. And then there's something you have to allocate it to each state. Well, that's up to the states to allocate. They made that big issue out of that with him, and something he had written that was a little raunchy. Okay, he's in that raunchy business. He's a satirist.
You think he can be a good senator?
I think he'll be great. And I think, don't you think you want to hear C-SPAN when he's on the floor? I think I might stop. I think I might want to hear more from him than
Don't
some
you
of
think
the
people
others.
might want to hear C-SPAN if you were on the floor?
That's the kind of a question that you can put to me later.
Later, June.
I don't know when.
June. Your
Well,
contract's
who
up
knows?
in June.
Who knows? But I tell you that I think he'll be a real plus if he gets in there. Norman Coleman hasn't struck me as consequential. I think there's going to be a lot of changes this year. I think some good people are going to lose, like John Sununu can lose, and I think that Gordon Smith can lose, and some bad people are going to lose, which is okay. But like Jim Talent lost last time. He was a good guy, and he lost to a good person, McCaskill. Every time there's an election, some good people lose. Who's that fella from Iowa, Jim, the guy who looked like a professor? Jim Leach got beaten.
Yeah.
Some guys get beaten, people get beaten who are good politicians. They go down in the tsunami.
Well, I'm going to change the subject now, but just before I do, it's just that when I talk to you and I look at you, I just think you've reached that feud in life where maybe after everything that went down this last 6 months with MSNBC and whatnot,
We're doing dynamite.
You're doing dynamite, but I just wonder if you always think it's appropriate work for a mature man.
I think that's a great question.
Can you
But
answer?
I got to tell you, there are nights when I get off that air at 6, I say, nothing can be better than what I enjoy doing for an hour.
Okay,
Nothing
but
is better.
could
And
the
the Sunday
same-
show I love doing. And the Sunday show is polished and it's classy. Classic. I don't want to sound like Sinatra. It's classic. And I think the weekday show, Hardball, I get tired by the end of the week. But some nights I walk off there and after I said, now that was a great show. I had a couple Congress people on. I challenged them. I had some smart journalists on. We had a good conversation. We had some fun with the merry-go-round or whatever it's called, the sideshow. And I think we had a good show, and it crackled, which is my old standard of the Washington Post when it crackled. I remember when it did.
Yeah,
It
and
used
I
to
love
crackle.
Did you
and
care?
when Bradley was there. And you can tell when journalism does its job when it crackles. And you learn something from it, and it's a moment. And
There's moments on the Senate floor that crackle too, aren't there?
well, there might be with the right people there, yeah.
Yeah, and you might be one of them.